How do you escape from Europe's most secure prison? A place designed to hold the most dangerous individuals with no chance of freedom. This is the story of one of the most daring escapes in history. The Maze Prison, located just outside Belfast in Northern Ireland, was no ordinary facility. It was a fortress, a maximum security prison built to contain the country's most volatile political prisoners. Its walls were towering, its gates reinforced, and its guards trained to prevent even the slightest hint of escape. Known as the escape-proof prison, it was designed to break both the bodies and spirits of those inside. Each cell was tightly secured, and the entire complex was surrounded by layers of fences, watchtowers, and armed patrols. For years, it stood as a symbol of unshakable authority, a place where hope of freedom seemed to vanish the moment its gates closed behind you. But this wasn't just a prison. It was the epicenter of a larger conflict. Most of its inmates were members of the Irish Republican Army, imprisoned for their role in the violent struggle during the Troubles. For them, escaping the maze wasn't just about personal freedom. It was about defiance. It was about proving that no wall, no gate, no guard could extinguish their cause. What happened in 1983 shattered the myth of Maze Prison's impenetrability. A plan so bold, so intricate, and so dangerous unfolded within those walls. What seemed impossible became reality. And it all started with a group of men who refused to accept the limits of their confinement. The Maze Prison, officially known as Her Majesty's Prison Maze, was a maximum security facility located in Northern Ireland. Built during one of the most turbulent periods in the country's history, it was constructed to function like a military fortress. The prison's layout was infamous for its H-blocks, a series of interconnected units designed for the strict segregation of inmates. With layers of security, armed watchtowers, and endless fences, it was considered one of the most secure prisons in Europe. But what made the maze unique wasn't just its design. It was the people it housed. Most of its inmates were members of the Irish Republican Army, or IRA, individuals imprisoned for their involvement in paramilitary activities. These prisoners didn't see themselves as criminals. To them, they were freedom fighters, locked away for their role in a bitter struggle for Irish independence. For these men, imprisonment wasn't the end of their fight. Inside the walls of the maze, the same resolve that fueled their actions outside burned even brighter. Freedom wasn't just a desire. It was an unshakable goal, something they believed was worth any risk, any cost. This all took place during the Troubles, a conflict that consumed Northern Ireland for decades. It was a time when every action, no matter how small, carried immense weight. The struggle between Unionists, who wanted to remain part of the United Kingdom, and Republicans who sought a united Ireland, dominated every aspect of life. Inside the maze, the walls couldn't contain this conflict. For the prisoners, even captivity became a battlefield, and every attempt to escape was a symbol of their unyielding defiance. Escaping from the maze prison was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was the result of months of careful planning, patience, and incredible precision. Every detail had to be perfect. The prisoners knew they were being watched at all times, so secrecy was key. The first step was gathering intelligence. They studied the routines of the guards, memorized their shifts, and noted every potential weakness in the prison's security. Every movement, every interaction was observed and recorded. It was like piecing together a puzzle where one wrong move could expose everything. Tools were another challenge. The prisoners couldn't just smuggle in saws or weapons, they had to get creative. Through a network of contacts, they managed to acquire small items, bit by bit, right under the noses of the guards. Even the smallest object, like a piece of wire, became crucial to their plan. Communication was perhaps the hardest part. Coordinating a plan involving 38 men in such a high-security environment seemed impossible. Whispered conversations, coded notes, and subtle gestures became their language. They had to ensure every prisoner involved knew their role without alerting the guards. Every day was a test of nerves. The guards were always on the lookout for anything unusual. One slip, a careless word, a misplaced item, could unravel the entire plan. But despite the immense pressure, the prisoners remained disciplined, focused, and united. This wasn't the effort of a single mastermind. It was a collective operation, involving a group of men working together with unwavering trust in one another. Their determination to escape went beyond personal freedom. It was a statement of defiance against the system that sought to break them. September 25, 1983. The day everything changed inside the walls of the Maze prison. After months of planning and preparation, the prisoners were ready to act. The tension was unbearable, but there was no turning back. It began with a calculated move. Several prisoners, disguised as orderlies, gained access to key areas of the prison. They smuggled in weapons, knives, and small firearms that had been meticulously hidden and passed along in the days leading up to the escape. Timing was everything. The first critical step was overpowering the guards. One by one, they were disarmed and restrained. Despite the chaos, the prisoners moved swiftly and with precision, knowing they had only minutes before someone noticed something was wrong. At the heart of the plan was a food delivery truck. It was their ticket out of the fortress. The prisoners hijacked the vehicle, forcing the driver at gunpoint to comply. The truck was loaded with the escapees, who hid as the vehicle approached the main gates. As the truck neared the exit, guards at the gate became suspicious. But by then, it was too late. The prisoners inside the truck held their ground, prepared for confrontation. Confusion erupted as the guards scrambled to respond. Some prisoners who weren't inside the truck caused distractions, adding to the mayhem. The guards tried to regain control, but the situation spiraled out of their hands. Alarms blared, orders were shouted, and panic spread through the prison. In the midst of the chaos, the truck broke through the final barrier, carrying 38 men toward freedom. What followed was pandemonium. Prison officials were left stunned, unable to comprehend how the escape-proof prison had been breached. It was a day of complete disorder, a moment that shattered the myth of the maze's impenetrability. The breakout was nothing short of daring. The 38 prisoners, united by months of planning and an unrelenting determination, put their plan into action. The centerpiece of their escape was a food delivery truck which had entered the prison grounds as part of its usual routine. The prisoners overpowered the truck driver, holding him at gunpoint. They forced him to drive toward the main gates, all while other prisoners created diversions to distract the guards. As the truck approached the heavily secured exit, tension reached its peak. Would they make it out, or would the plan fall apart? The gates were the final barrier. Guards hesitated, suspicious of the truck's movements, but the prisoners inside were ready for confrontation. They forced their way through, breaching the gates that were supposed to be unbreakable. It was the moment they had worked for. Freedom was just beyond those walls. But escaping the prison was only the beginning. The alarm had been raised, and police and military forces were quickly mobilized. Chaos erupted as the authorities scrambled to respond. Roadblocks were set up, helicopters took to the skies, and search teams spread out across the area. The prisoners, now scattered, faced a race against time. Some made it to safe houses or slipped across the border, vanishing into the night. Others weren't so lucky. Despite their meticulous planning, several escapees were caught in the days and weeks that followed, brought down by the overwhelming response from the authorities. Of the 38 who escaped that day, 19 were eventually recaptured. But for the others, freedom was achieved against all odds. Their escape became a symbol of defiance and resilience, a daring act that stunned the world and left a lasting mark on history. The Maze prison escape of 1983 sent shockwaves across the world. For the Irish Republican Army, it was a triumph, an act of defiance that reinforced their determination. For British authorities, however, it was a devastating embarrassment. The escape from what was considered an impenetrable prison exposed vulnerabilities they never thought possible. The global reaction was immediate. News outlets around the world covered the story, calling it one of the most daring prison breaks in history. For many supporters of the Republican cause, it was a moment of inspiration, a bold statement that their struggle was far from over. But for the British government, it was a public relations disaster, highlighting the tension and volatility of the conflict in Northern Ireland. The consequences were severe. Security at the Maze prison and other facilities was tightened drastically. More guards were deployed, protocols were overhauled, and surveillance was increased to ensure something like this could never happen again. Meanwhile, the escape triggered one of the largest manhunts in British history. Police and military forces combed through the countryside, set up checkpoints, and followed every possible lead. Over time, 19 of the 38 escapees were recaptured. Some were found within days, while others were arrested years later, living under assumed identities. But not all were caught. For the remaining escapees, the taste of freedom was real. Some managed to evade capture permanently, blending into new lives or continuing their fight from the shadows. Their stories became the stuff of legend, celebrated by some and condemned by others. The escape left a lasting mark, not just on Northern Ireland but on the global stage. It was a reminder of the lengths people will go to for their beliefs and the price that comes with such daring acts. Decades later, the events of that day remain a powerful symbol of resistance and resilience. The Maze prison escape was more than just a jailbreak. It was a meticulously planned act of defiance, a calculated move that symbolized resistance against a system the prisoners believed was designed to break them. For the men involved, it wasn't just about escaping walls and bars. It was about challenging the authority that held them captive. Today, the escape is remembered as one of the boldest events in modern history. It stands as a testament to unyielding resolve and the lengths people will go to in pursuit of freedom. For some, it's a story of courage and determination. For others, it's a reminder of the deep divisions and the cost of conflict during the Troubles. The legacy of the escape endures in both legend and controversy. It's a tale of risk, sacrifice, and unity among the escapees, but also of the chaos and pain that followed in its wake. The story forces us to confront difficult questions about freedom, resistance, and the human spirit. What drives people to risk everything for freedom? Is it the hope of a better life, the refusal to surrender, or something deeper, something that can't be contained by walls or boundaries? And in the midst of chaos, when the cost of freedom is so high, what does that freedom truly mean? The Maze escape is more than history. It's a story that continues to provoke thought, inspire debate, and remind us of the complexities of the struggle for liberty. So, here we reach the end of our story. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel.